Let me tell you about a man so cruel, hell would probably kick him out for being too extra. This is not a movie, this is not Netflix. This is real life. And the devil, he lives in Equatorial Guinea. His name is Teodoro Obiang. This man didn't just kill his enemies, he cooked them, boiled, alive, screaming, burning, melting. He sat there, watching, laughing, smoking cigars while bodies turned to soup. If demons had a president, it would be this guy. And guess what? He's still in power since 1979. While your grandpa was raising kids, he was raising hell. Presidents came and went, he stayed, like a virus, a curse. He turned a rich country into a private zoo. Oil money, gone, stolen. His people starving, silent, scared. You speak out, you disappear, you scream, no one hears. Your own family won't ask questions because they don't want to end up in a sack. And his kids, living like rap stars in Paris, gold cars, crystal-covered gloves, mansions bigger than schools, all bought with stolen blood money. This ain't politics. This is evil. And the world quiet. Because he's got oil, and nobody wants to piss off the guy sitting on black gold. This video isn't just a documentary. It's a warning, a scream, a slap to the face of comfort. Because the most brutal dictator alive didn't die in history books. He's still right there smiling. Since 1979, one man has owned Equatorial Guinea like it's his damn backyard. Teodoro Obiang, the name that makes people lower their voice and glance over their shoulder. His country, tiny, rich in oil, dripping in natural wealth, on paper one of the richest in Africa. But if you step into the streets, people are broke, hospitals empty, schools falling apart. Kids growing up hungry, while Obiang's family is out here buying mansions in Malibu and yachts the size of small countries. You see the numbers and think, they must be living good. Nah, they're surviving, barely. Because when Obiang rose to power, he didn't come to lead, he came to own. And for 40 plus years he's ruled with fear, fire and force. They say his rule is marked by constant and systematic human rights abuse. Let's be real, it's more than that. It's theft, it's torture, it's a whole country turned into a private vault for one bloodline. So how did this all start? Let's rewind the tape, see how he climbed the ladder, crushed everyone on the way up, and built one of the most brutal family empires Africa's ever seen. And trust me, it only gets darker from here. Teodoro Obiang didn't just fall from the sky, he was built in the shadows of another monster. Born June 5th, 1942, back when Equatorial Guinea was still under Spanish control, Obiang grew up watching how power really works. Not through kindness, not through law, but through fear. He trained in Spain at the Zaragoza Military Academy learning tactics, learning rank, learning how to play the game like a future warlord. When he got back home, he slid right into power under his uncle, Francisco Macias Nguema. Yeah, family business. And guess what? His uncle wasn't just the president, he was a straight-up butcher. Macias turned the country into a blood pool in the 60s and 70s. Executions, madness, entire villages living in silence. And Obiang, he was right there, prison governor, deputy defense minister, watching, learning, probably taking notes. But when Macias started killing off even his own men, including Obiang's own brother, things changed. The fear that built Obiang finally flipped. In 1979, Obiang made his move. They called it the coup for freedom. But let's be honest, it wasn't about freedom. It was survival and power. Macias was captured, put on trial and executed. And who rose from the ashes? Obiang. 37 years old, cold eyes, steady hands. He took the throne and he never let it go. That wasn't the end of the nightmare. The moment Obiang grabbed power, hope packed its bags and left the country. People thought maybe, just maybe, this was a new beginning, but nah, this wasn't about change, it was about control. and Obiang wasted no time locking it all down. First move, he rewrote the constitution like it was a cheat code, gave himself full-blown superpowers in 1982. Then in 1991, he leveled up again, made himself untouchable for life. Immunity, no matter what he did, the law couldn't touch him. Torture someone, steal billions, doesn't matter, he wrote the rulebook. Then he built his own party, the Democratic Party of Equatorial Guinea. But don't let the name fool you. There was nothing democratic about it. It was the only legal party for years. Elections, please, he won over 90% every single time. No real opponents, no real votes, just a big shiny lie on a ballot box. A whole country playing pretend while one man pulled the strings. And the government? He turned it into a family reunion. His son, vice president, another son, minister of mines, niece, running finance. The whole nation became a private club. You either had the Obiang name or you had no power. One expert said it best. This is one of the clearest examples of a fully captured state. Laws dead, democracy just a costume. The country didn't belong to the people, it belonged to them. And from this point on, Equatorial Guinea stopped being a nation. It became a kingdom of fear. Obiang rules with fear like it's oxygen. People in Equatorial Guinea aren't just living under a dictatorship, they were born into it, raised in it, every second of their lives soaked in silence. As Amnesty International put it, they've grown up in a country where human rights are constantly and systematically violated. That's not exaggeration, that's daily life. The regime doesn't bother with laws. If they think you're a threat, you're done. Journalist, gone. Activist, beaten. Opposition politician, tortured. Even if you're just a regular citizen who said the wrong thing, poof, you vanish, no charges, no trial, no goodbye. Protests, banned. Media, choked. Truth, buried. One Equatorial activist told Reuters straight up, "You cannot freely speak up your mind in Equatorial Guinea." That's not paranoia, that's survival instinct. And if you think it's just threats and arrests, you're not ready for the truth, because what's happening behind those prison doors is straight up horror. Torture isn't rare, it's routine, it's the system. One opposition figure tied up on the floor. Police tried to bribe him to confess to something he didn't do. He said no. So they stuffed him in a sack, tied it up, hung it, and beat the life out of him. Primo Jose Esono Mikale Young, hopeful activist, was tied so tight his back bent like a broken bow. Then they hung him from the ceiling until he couldn't feel his limbs. Other victims, suspended by their ankles, heavy stones crushed their backs, heads forced into filthy buckets of water until their lungs screamed. One said, "They put me in a sack and beat me until I begged them to stop." And there are dozens more stories just like that. Dozens. This isn't just cruelty, it's calculated terror. Even entire ethnic groups weren't spared. Back in the 90s, after some small booby rebellions, Obiang's forces went wild. Tortures, killings, mass punishment. The booby people indigenous to Bioko Island became targets. Fast forward to now, nothing's changed. Secret police still roam the streets like shadows. Anyone can be snatched. No warning, no rights, no trace. As one EU report says, dissidents are disappeared. And Obiang, he still shows up at the United Nations with a straight face. In the 2019 UN Human Rights Council review, his government claimed there's press freedom, claimed they had no political prisoners. Lies. Blatant, polished, camera-ready lies. And the wild part? Almost 90% of the countries in that meeting praised Equatorial Guinea for their achievements. Only a few US, UK, and a handful of others had the guts to call out the truth. Torture, repression, blood behind the gold curtains. Meanwhile, in Brussels, the European Parliament in 2023 dropped the mask, completely publicly condemned Obiang's regime for barbaric acts, torture, unlawful detention, outright killings. They demanded the release of political prisoners. But demands don't scare dictators. Tutu Alicante from EG Justice said it clearly. He is going to do whatever it takes not to leave power. And when whatever it takes includes beatings, sacks, chains, and silence. You already know what kind of monster you're dealing with. In the 1990s, Equatorial Guinea struck oil, and for a moment the country looked like it had hit the jackpot. Black gold, billions in the ground. A nation of just 1.5 million about to rise? Wrong. It didn't transform the people, it transformed the Obiang dynasty. Instead of shared prosperity, the oil boom became the family's personal cash explosion. Obiang's oldest son, Teodoro Jr., or Teodorin, got promoted to vice president. But let's be honest, he wasn't running a country, he was running a luxury wish list. US prosecutors pulled back the curtain. Teodorin was making less than $100K officially, but somehow he racked up over $300 million in stolen wealth. How? Simple: corruption. He bought multiple yachts worth over $100 million. A $30 million mansion in Malibu. A $120 million palace in Paris. Bentleys, Bugattis, Ferraris like candy. Even a crystal-covered glove worn by Michael Jackson. Oil money turned into shopping sprees. And in 2021, the US government seized 25.6 million of his stuff and sent it back to Equatorial Guinea for COVID relief. Yeah, during a pandemic, the vice president's stolen toys became hospital money. But Teodorin wasn't alone. Obiang's other son, Gabriel, the oil minister, got his own slice. Journalists found he created shell companies to funnel state funds overseas like it was nothing. He even dropped $2.5 million on a villa in Cyprus. Not to chill, not to live. Just to grab an EU golden passport and lock in a second citizenship. This is how the Obiang family rolls. They don't see national wealth. They see a bottomless ATM with no PIN code. And while they live like oligarchs, the people suffer hard. Equatorial Guinea has a GDP per capita similar to Italy's. Sounds rich, right? But in reality, clinics are empty. Schools are collapsing. 70% of the country lives in deep, choking poverty. One expert broke it down. Equatorial Guinea has the widest gap between income per capita and human development in the world. Billions came in. But no roads, no clean water, no functioning hospitals. Just silence, starvation, suffering. While Teodorin's house in Paris shines, kids back home can't even find chalk for school. That's not mismanagement. That's calculated robbery. And the vault they're emptying? It's the people. So, how has the world responded to all this? Human rights groups like Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, and Freedom House have been shouting for years, calling out Obiang's regime for what it is: brutal, corrupt, and inhumane. But the sad truth, their voices often get drowned out by oil and politics. Yeah, the US and EU made a few moves. They hit Teodorin and other officials with targeted sanctions, froze assets, launched forfeiture cases. In 2020, a court in Paris froze one of Teodorin's mansions. And the US? They made him surrender his Malibu estate. But don't get it twisted, that's the exception, not the norm. Equatorial Guinea hasn't faced any serious tribunal, no major trials, no global reckoning. Why? Because oil is thicker than blood. The country's biggest international partners, US, China, EU nations, they all still buy that oil, still sign the contracts, still keep quiet when it counts. In fact, some nations are cozying up even tighter. In 2024, Obiang made his 11th visit to China. He and Xi Jinping shook hands and sealed what they called a comprehensive strategic partnership. Translation: we don't care what you do, just keep the oil flowing. And big oil companies? ExxonMobil, Chevron, they're still in the mix. Still making billions while the regime tortures, censors, and steals. Even across Africa, pressure is weak. Too many governments playing the same game, turning a blind eye because they don't want fingers pointed back at them. In 2023, the European Parliament stepped up. They formally condemned Obiang's regime, called for human rights monitors to be let in. But on the ground, change is snail slow. The ones still fighting? It's the activists, people like Tutu Alicante, the NGOs, the truth tellers. They're pushing, screaming, risking everything to break the silence. But as Tutu says, he is going to do whatever it takes not to leave power. And he's proven it again and again. Right now, Obiang is the longest-serving non-royal head of state on earth. He rules by fear, by torture, by oil money. And by silence, what happens next? That's the million-dollar question. Does the world finally wake up and pull the plug? Or does it just keep cashing checks while the people of Equatorial Guinea suffer? One thing's for sure. As long as Obiang stays in that palace backed by oil, guarded by guns, and propped up by silence, the nightmare isn't over. The voices behind this story, they're not rumors, they're not guesses, they're the ones who've seen it, survived it, or dug deep enough to expose it. Amnesty International didn't hold back. They called Obiang's rule what it is. Constant and systematic abuse. Not once in a while, not during war, constant, every damn day. Activists like Tutu Alicante have risked everything to speak out. He's made it clear there's no such thing as free speech in Equatorial Guinea. You speak, you vanish. And when asked about the future, he didn't sugarcoat it. Obiang will do whatever it takes not to leave power. And then there's the journalists and investigators. They pulled the receipts on the money trail OCCRP, Transparency International, Hudson Institute. They showed the world how Obiang's family turned national oil into luxury yachts, Paris mansions, and golden passports. They showed how the country's laws, courts, and resources were hijacked by one bloodline. These aren't just quotes. They're warnings. They're the backbone of a story built on fear, greed, and raw power. And together they paint a picture the world can't keep ignoring. A regime of kleptocracy, brutality, and impunity still standing, still stealing, still silencing. Let me tell you something about evil. It doesn't always wear a mask or carry a gun. Sometimes it wears a suit. Sometimes it walks with a smile and a speech about peace and progress. Sometimes it rules for 45 years and dares you to do something about it. Teodoro Obiang. This man didn't just rob a country, he robbed time. He robbed futures, he robbed voices. He turned a land rich with oil and culture into a prison wrapped in gold. And the craziest part, he didn't even have to hide it. He flaunted it. Watched his sons blow millions on cars and mansions while mothers couldn't even buy bread. Turned the capital city into a fake stage with fancy buildings, while villages went dark without electricity or hope. He held elections where he always won, 90%, 95%, 99%, and then had the nerve to call it democracy. And we all just watched. Let me say this, Obiang is not a leader. He's a thief, a coward, a butcher dressed in presidential cloth. He took power with blood and held it with fear. And for 40 plus years, he's ruled like the people were insects beneath his boot. He boiled men alive, boiled. He hung activists like slabs of meat. He stuffed sons, fathers, teachers into sacks, beat them, crushed them, and dumped them without names or graves. But somehow that wasn't the part that scared me the most. You want to know what really hit me? It's that this man is still in power. Right now, today. Living, breathing, shaking hands with presidents and posing for the UN cameras like he's done nothing wrong. That's what messed me up, because I realized something ugly. The world doesn't care until it costs them something. Human rights groups screamed. Activists bled. Journalists risked their lives. But oil kept flowing. Contracts stayed signed. And silence. It became the most profitable sound on earth. You see, Obiang didn't just master dictatorship, he mastered distraction. He turned global attention into a joke. One hand full of torture, the other handing out oil deals. That's the blueprint. And you better believe other leaders are watching. Now let me get real with you. If you're watching this thinking, damn, that's crazy, and then you scroll to the next video, you're part of the silence. Yeah, I said it. Because silence doesn't mean you agree. It means you've decided it's not your problem. But if that was your brother who disappeared, if that was your daughter stuffed in a sack and hung from the ceiling, if that was your family struggling while a dictator's son popped bottles in Paris, would you be quiet then? Let me guess. Well, it's complicated. No, it's not. It's evil. And evil only grows when good people keep playing dumb. Obiang doesn't fear weapons. He fears exposure. He fears people talking. He fears people knowing. Because once the lie is dead, the throne starts shaking. So let me give you this. History won't remember Obiang for his suits or speeches. It will remember the silence that let him live like a king while his people died in the dark. That quote, that's mine. And I stand on it. Because if we keep letting men like this win, if we keep brushing off torture as just foreign politics, we're not just watching history, we're letting it repeat. So when you finish this video, I don't want you to say, that was sad. I want you to say, this can't keep happening. Because the only thing more dangerous than a dictator is a world that lets him exist without consequence. Obiang may still be in power today, but he won't rule forever. And when that day comes, when the people finally rise, or the world finally steps in, I want this video, this message, this moment to stand as proof